going to be going over this problem about what an ideal ammeter should be, right? And we have four answer choices. It should have a high coil resistance and then introduce a very small series resistance into the circuit whose current is to be measured. And then C is the same thing, just instead it's a large series resistance. And then D consists of a galvanometer in series with a large resistor. So let's establish what an ammeter is and what its purpose is. An ammeter is responsible for measuring the current that is running through the circuit, or the part of the circuit that the ammeter is placed. Okay, so since we know that the purpose of it is to measure the current, we know automatically that the answer cannot be A and it cannot be D. Right. So we're only left with B and C because B and C are the only answers that say that the purpose of it is the current, to measure the current, right? So I drew some diagrams that we can use to help us figure this out. Okay. If we know that the purpose of the ammeter is to measure the current that's running through the circuit, right? Well, let's look at the first circuit. Okay. If we have a battery with a voltage of 5, right, and it has an ammeter with an internal resistance of 10 ohms. If we know that V equals IR and the current derived from that is V over R, so I equals V over R, right? We have enough information to calculate the current that is running through the first circuit, right? So E1 is 5, so voltage is 5, and the internal resistance of the ammeter is 10. So E1 is 5, capital R1 is 10. So when I calculated I1, I got 5 over 10, which is also equal to 1/2, which then also simplifies as 0.5 amperes, right? So that's the current running through the first circuit. Now let's look at the second circuit. Everything is the same except the internal resistance of the ammeter. Okay, so we still have the 5 volts. However, the second resistance value is now 1 ohm. When I substituted the values in, when I was calculating the second circuit, sorry, I got 5 amperes, right? So for the first circuit, we got 0.5 amperes, and for the second circuit, we got 5 amperes, right? Which one do you think is more realistic when it comes to determining the actual current that should be in the circuit, right? Well, it's going to be the second circuit. Why? Because it has the lowest internal resistance. The greater the internal resistance, the least accurate of a current that you are getting that was running in the circuit before measuring it. And I'll give you an analogy on how you can interpret this. Imagine you're trying to measure your height. Would your height be more accurate with shoes that provide 3 inches of height or without the shoes? Okay. Obviously, if you were going to be measuring your height, if you had shoes on that gave you an extra 3 inches, then that wouldn't really be an accurate measurement of what your height is without the shoes, right? So ideally, taking the shoes off and measuring yourself would be the most accurate measurement of your height. So the same thing that's happening in this circuit, imagine the value of the resistance of the ammeter is equal to the height given by the shoes. Okay, if the height of the shoes was greater, right? Let's say instead of 3, it was 5 or 10. Let's just say it's increasing value, right? It's an increasing value. Obviously, your height would get less and less accurate, right? Because now you're measuring yourself with shoes that are making you taller and taller. Now, let's say maybe you're still wearing shoes, but they only give you 1 inch, right? If you were wearing shoes with 1 inch, then obviously your height would be somewhat more accurate than like in comparison to what your true height is without the shoes, right? So you still need to wear the shoes, right? Because that's what an ammeter is. An ammeter is saying that you still need to wear the shoes and measuring your height. It's just we need to pick the least height possible, right? Or in other words, we need to pick the least value of the resistance as possible. Okay, So that's why the second circuit is the most reliable answer, because that is the most accurate measurement, or in terms of the shoes, it's the most accurate measurement of your height. Okay. So I hope that helps with understanding why the second circuit is the most ideal ammeter, because it has the lowest resistance value. Okay. Thank you guys.